Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. And today we have with us keynote presenter, entrepreneur, author, and ActionCOACH, Bill Gilliland. Bill, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.
You're welcome. And so I want to get into what exactly you do, because saying that you're a business coach or a mentor or a leader, is really, really broad. So I want to dial it into kind of the transformation that you bring to your clients. But give us a little bit of a background on yourself, because you don't just wake up one day and say, hey, I graduated college, I'm now going to be a business coach, because you don't have the expertise and the pedigree really to build off of. So what led you to business coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. And I think that I was thinking about this morning, actually. As a football coach, you wouldn't wake up one morning and be the head coach at Alabama. You have to go through an apprenticeship. You probably played football, and then you're probably going to do some assistant coaching or graduate coaching, and then eventually you may get a shot at being a head coach. So I do think that coaching really is an experience game. And so, yeah, my life started. I was trained as an engineer. I'm sure there are some other failed engineers out there. I sort of got into the sales and marketing side. I worked in corporate for a couple of years, and then got an MBA. And then I went to work in a small family-owned business of which I wasn't part of the family. And long story short, I was promoted to being one of the division managers pretty quickly, within about 3 months of being there. And I'd never had an employee before. So I kind of learned business from the top down, I guess. From there, I've got my background's really owning and running my own businesses for the last 30 or so years. And about 15 years ago, I got into this game. We were wrapping up a business. We were selling a piece of a business we had. And I was looking around for something to do, and this idea of helping other people reach their goals really appealed to me, and it's been a great ride. So that's sort of my background.
Yeah, I love that when you can say, and we won't get into this, but I'm confident that you could say, yes, I could check this box. I've made some really big mistakes in my business career. So when you can say, yep, been there and done that, but let me kind of take you by the arm and guide you around that landmine and that hurdle and that speed bump, and be able to kind of guide those business owners, like you're saying, and kind of be their guide, rather than being their cheerleader. You want to come alongside with them and say, you can do it, but let me just show you where I kind of went wrong and straight here. Do you find yourself doing that in some of your coaching?
All the time. I think that the easiest experience is to use somebody else's experience. If you want to do it the hard way, do it the way I did it, and learn by, making all the mistakes along the way. I reckon I've made most of them.
And this is a human nature question, because I've got kids age 15 to 21, and we try to teach them, learn from other people's mistakes. But in some cases, it's hard to do that, because just your human nature is, I can do this. I can make this work. Do you ever find businesses that kind of nod and kind of agree with you and go, yeah, I can learn from other people's mistakes or your mistakes, but then they still have trouble moving past what their gut feel like, well, I just really think this should work. What do you do when that comes up to kind of give them a little bit of rope, but then also want to not let them stray too far to make that mistake?
Yeah, well, I don't think you can make anybody do anything they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint of view, I want to give them an informed decision. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll talk about options. Because there's usually, what I've found in businesses, there's not always a right or a wrong. It's not like a moral decision or an ethical decision. If it's ethical or moral, yeah, there's a right or a wrong. Okay, make the right decision there. But a lot of times it's on a spectrum. So it's not really left or right or up or down. It's just a way and maybe a better way to do it. So a lot of times, most of the decisions we make are not fatal. when it comes in business. And so what we'd look to do is to inform, to give them the benefit of my experience and the strategies and the tactics that have worked for other people, to give them a better than average or an 80% chance of having something actually work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, and I love what you said about you can't make people do things. It's like the old you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And guess what you can do though. And now we're kind of diving into really more of the human psychology, but let's tie it into marketing in this sense. You can push and push and push, but guess what happens when you push? Someone resists back because it's kind of like that physics rule. And can you push someone with a rope? No, because if you push up against someone with a rope, it's a rope. It just kind of is flabby. But if they hold on to it, you can gently pull them. So what would make someone want to come a direction? Well, that is now coming alongside them. That is not saying to them, this is such a horrible decision you're about to make. Let me show you the right decision. It's, let's look at some of the factors that go into this. But the bottom line is, you want to make it attractive to come the direction that you're guiding them. And in marketing, it's push versus pull. You don't want the buy now, scarcity, deadline, sale, buy. You want to educate someone to say, here's some of your options, and we've got some research that backs this up. If there's anything we can do to help you, just let us know. And they're coming from another competitor of yours that really just was pushy, and it just feels constricting. So when you can do that pull, whether you're teaching and training employees, whether you're teaching and training entrepreneurs, or whether you're really reaching out to your target audience, I feel like that statement you made is so coming full circle here. You can't make anyone do anything they don't want to do. Well, people want to buy, but they don't want to be sold. So you really want to make that story of your business solid. So what do you find in that respect when you're working with a business and kind of looking at some of these opportunities? What tends to be one of the first areas that you work with them to help fill in the holes of their bucket?
Well, usually when clients the best clients are doing well, and if they've reached a plateau and they just don't know what to do next. Okay, that's an ideal client. More typically, what we find is a business owner will have some sort of a challenge. Now, usually those challenges fall into three areas. It could be time, so they have a time challenge, they have a team challenge, or maybe they just have a money challenge, a cash flow challenge, and sometimes it ends up being all three.
Yeah.
So what we usually do is we want to deal with that immediate challenge first. And then I call it's sort of like they're in a bit of a hole. Okay, so how can we get them out of that hole? Well, for some people, that's all. They're in so much pain. If we can get them out of the hole, then, well, that's good enough. But what we really want to get them focused on is, okay, once you get out of a hole, well, there's a mountain to climb. And, we want to help them, look at what's possible in their business. Some of them have been, struggling, and they believe that business is hard, and there is a set formula to grow a business. So if we get a set formula in place, then we can show them how to reach the mountaintop, how to really get to a place that's really good in business, and take them beyond their business to investing in real estate and actual creating wealth. And so that's sort of the whole. First thing, to answer your question, to come back full circle, I didn't really answer your question. What we do first depends on where that pain point is. So, for example, a lot of them will come and they'll have some sort of a pain point. They don't really understand how cash flows through their business, so we may need to do a cash flow forecasting scenario, a tool to help them actually be able to look out forward and see, where they're, when they're going to need to have more cash and what kind of sales they have to reach, that sort of thing. So usually we dig into the numbers pretty fast.
Yeah, because that almost seems like the really, I don't know, the first pain point that people tend to think that it is money. And I'll bet that you can dig in deep and say, okay, it might be money. Let's fix a few things here. But in reality, it is right? Because just dumping more money in that bucket, if there's a bunch of holes in it, more money doesn't help. It's the flow, like you say. So we want to stop up the outflow, and we want to keep more of your money to do more of the great things. So that's a really, really good point. Hey, you teach about the EPIC concept. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so I've been in this coaching game for almost 15 years now, and what I've found is that my best clients were becoming essentially coaches to themselves. I mean, they were creating business that worked without them, which in my mind is our goal as a business coach. Yeah. So they get their money in place, they get their team in place, they get their time in place, they understand the principles around that. Well, what I found was that last step of becoming the coach in the business, a lot of them didn't really know how to be a coach. And so that's what I wrote, the book, The Coach Approach, 5 Principles to Build an Epic Business. The epic part of it came out of, I was looking for sort of an acronym of, what were the buckets of success. And so the first bucket is education. And what I've found is that a business John Maxwell calls it the law of the lid. There's only, if you're at a certain place in your business can only grow to your level of competence. So in order to have a better business, you have to have a better you. So the first area is education. Mm-hmm. The second area is planning. And what I found there was that, most people are not great at planning. Most people are pretty good at calendaring, so a lot of times we can have a good calendar, and then help them, build a plan around that calendar. So, but planning on a comprehensive, 5-year plans, having quarterly plans, having weekly plans, having daily plans. Of course, the daily plan's the most important one around that, and then the third area is inspiration. So I don't believe you can lead a business without being inspiring. You certainly can't sell anybody anything without creating some inspiration. So the third area is inspiration. And the fourth area is commitment. So if you want to be successful in life and in business, you got to commit to a few things. It's great what you're doing with this podcast. You're obviously committed to it. You have a massive library of people that you've talked to, and, pretty much daily it looks like a new one comes out. So, kudos on you for committing to a strategy and making it work. So that's sort of the 4 areas it's more of a, what I've learned over the years.
Yeah, I love that when you can wrap decades of learning into a nice, and I use the word technology because it's not really electronic or digital technology, but it's a technology, it's a thing that you can install into a business and really focus on these and walk people through these 4 concepts. So I really like that a lot. What do you feel? We've been talking a lot about coaching and mentoring. What do you feel the difference is between the two?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think coaching builds on mentoring. So in my experience, you can I think we all have had mentors. If you're going to be successful, you I think Tiger Woods said it, you can't do this stuff by yourself. You've got to do it. There's got to be a team. So I think we've all had mentors. In my mind, a mentor is someone who's kind of available. Like I could pick, say you were my mentor, I could pick you up and say, okay, Mike, I've got this issue, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to hire somebody, what do you think?
Yeah.
And we might chat it out. So, or a mentor, maybe a lot of times when one of my greatest mentors was a guy I worked for. So it was actually a person that I had a regular relationship with, but, we often took it. So he mentored me in a different way than say I might have a mentor relationship with you, but I think it's an availability thing. So that's mentoring. What I think is coaching takes it to the next step. I think coaching incorporates mentoring, but then I think a coach, if you think about an athletic coach, what do they do, Mike?
Well, they're right there on the field. They're seeing the whole field, offense and defense. If we're talking football here now, they're actually coming up and stopping the play and going, hold up, let's do this a little bit tighter right here. So I think I see where you're going with that, where there is a mentoring relationship because there's that respect level, but that coach is rolling up their sleeves and helping you and guiding you.
Yeah, that's right. And they're usually driving you towards some goal.
Yeah.
So So one of the best analogies for coaching, I think, in business is a personal trainer. And I don't know if you've used a personal trainer. I have. And they usually sit down and they do some sort of assessment and say, all right, where do you want to go? What's your goal? And then they assess where you are, and then they build a plan to get you from wherever you are to wherever you want to go. So it's step by step. So, for example, let's say you were starting from scratch, maybe you were in decent, okay shape, but it really hadn't worked out or anything, and you said, all right, I want to run a marathon in 3 months. There's going to be a different level of training in that than to say, hey, I just want to lose, 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And so, but it doesn't matter because it's about the client. It's not about the cool thing about coaching is not about me or you or anybody else. It's about helping the client get to that next level.
And I really like where we're headed with this question, with the difference between, because there's overlap in both of them, and I wonder if it's like someone could be a coach but not have that depth of experience, and the teammates or the business or the entrepreneur that's seeing this business coach, they're seeing their points and they're taking it under consideration. But since there's not that kind of authority and long-standing success that this person has had, there's really not that level of mentorship, because they're like, okay, you could have read that out of a book. But when you tie in both and you've got the vast background and the kind of like the air of authenticity and the air of mentorship, now the coaching really takes to a new level.
Yeah, well, coaching, one of the 5 principles is relationships matter.
Yeah.
And I think that, most of my relationships start off on a business, but I have, a lot of my personal best friends are my clients, because over the years of working with them, we've become really close, because I know stuff about them that I had one client, I'll just give you an example of how close the relationships get. She called me up and said, Bill, I just got to tell somebody. And I said, what? And she said, I'm pregnant. And I said, and I was like, how many people know?
Yeah.
She said, well, my doctor. And I think maybe she had told her husband. But I'm not clear on that, at this point. And so, that's a close relationship when someone will tell you that sort of a personal thing, and she already had 3 kids and was a little bit, what they call, advanced maternal age, I think now.
Yeah.
But, so I was really sort of honored that we had that relationship.
For sure.
So,
because she's used to sharing wins with you in business, so it's just natural to share a personal win as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't, sometimes I don't think we focus enough on the wins in America.
Yeah.
Or maybe in the world.
It take a minute. It's like that old saying, stop and smell the roses. It's like, okay, great, we achieved that goal. Next. Take a half a second and enjoy that and celebrate it. Take a half a day off and go whatever, do something and have that kind of moment in time, that market in time. I think that's a really big piece.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, 100% celebrations. And truthfully, over the years, I have to admit, I have fallen down on that. And, it's one of our focuses moving forward in next year, actually, 2020. Awesome. We're going to ramp up our celebrations. So, yeah, good.
Hey, I was wondering, have you ever seen the movie Facing the Giants?
Oh, yeah, fantastic movie. Yes.
I was just thinking about the coaching aspect of that scene, and I know you know where I'm headed with the scene, right? And yes. the one guy, the football player, is like, okay, get down on all fours. We're going to do this, crab crawl exercise, and I'm going to blindfold you, and I want you to get to the 50-yard line, and don't give up. And he's like, all right. And then he puts some other, smaller player on his back upside down. He's like, okay, you're going to carry him too. And he's like, what? I won't be able to get 10 feet. And he's like, just do it. And the coach is down there an inch from his face going, you can do it. Don't give up. It was just so powerful to see, and again, where this is, but for listeners not having heard this yet or seen the movie, highly recommend the movie. Great story. But at the end of the scene, he's like, did I make it? And he just collapsed, and he goes, did I make it to the 50-yard line? And he goes, look where you're at. You're in the end zone. Huge revelation for this kid. And the picture of this coach, he saw it in that kid. He saw that potential, but the kid kind of had it, like you said, John Maxwell, the law of the lid. He had the lid on his own potential, and that coach was pulling that lid off and guiding him and pushing him. And now I'll bet you that when that kid faces something, in his personal life, he knows that he can get past it because he did it on the football field. So same exact thing in business. Can you think of an example, and we'll just kind of wrap up with this last thought. Think of an example of a business you've worked with where maybe they didn't think that they had the potential to meet a certain goal. What did you see, and then how did you help guide them through that?
Yeah, look, we all can see outside looking in. A different path. I mean, that's why the offensive coordinator at a football game is sitting in the booth, because he looks at the field from a different angle. Yeah. So in our own businesses, we can't see. So having that outside looking in is really important. The example that comes to mind is I worked with a guy under the next small excavation company, and when we sat down to start working with him in the business, which has been a number of years ago, it's probably been 8 years ago, he sat down and I said, so what do you want out of your, well, usually we ask him, what do you want out of your life? And then what do we want out of your business? And it's sort of the same in his case. And he said, well, look, I want to be able to have my business run in a manner so that if I want to leave for 3 months and do mission work, I can go do that. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. We'll start out to put together a business that can work without you and do it. So, and here's the happy ending. The happy ending is that, he's in the Bahamas right now helping with the rebuilding. He's got younger children. He took his family down there. They're going to be there either 2 or 3 months. And he's running these camps where mission people can come in, from church groups or from other just interested parties that want to help. They come in for a week or two, and he's running that camp and assigning the work crews. And his team is running his business for him while we're talking on this podcast. That's awesome. And one thing you alluded to earlier, but what you just mentioned there just highlights it 100%, which is you want to move from striving in business and personal life to thriving. If you just strive your whole career, you've just got a job. You just work for yourself and you're punching your own clock. But when you get to the point of then thriving, you then have a team that can move forward while you're doing other things like helping with the ministry, helping give back to community, all of these things, but yet you've built the systems in place to know that it's going to run while you're not there. Not that you're going to just be a slacker of a CEO or a business owner, but to know you have that freedom. So I think that was the perfect example of that with that the client of yours. Hey, let's wrap up with, if someone was interested in reaching out, maybe getting a free coaching session, pick up a copy of your book, what's the best way they can reach out and connect with you, Bill? Yeah, probably, they can email me directly. It's William Gilliland at ActionCOACH.com. I've got 2 websites. One is BillGilliland.ActionCOACH.com and then BillGilliland.biz. And, you can get the book on Amazon. It's called The Coach Approach, 5 Principles to Build an Epic Business. Awesome. Well, Bill, thanks so much for coming on. And I'm on every kind of social media. If you want to reach out on LinkedIn, that's probably the quickest way to get me. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'll make sure I have those links in the show notes, and thank you for your time. Hey, I really appreciate it, Mike. It's a great show, and I love what you're doing for the entrepreneurial community. Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.